The NFL is a crazy league, isn't it? You can't make it up. Welcome into the San Francisco 49ers Report. My name is Chase Sr. Hope you're all having a great night. And as always, thank you so much for supporting the channel and watching this video. Coming up here on the Niners Report, a lot of free agency news to talk about, but some crazy, shocking, wild breaking news across the NFL as the Maxx Crosby trade is off. The Baltimore Ravens have backed out of the deal thanks to a failed physical, and that trade is now nullified. Gonna react to that. Does it mean that the Niners could swoop back in because the asking price isn't all that high? We'll discuss it. The 49ers making a signing in free agency, and San Francisco also losing 2 players in NFL free agency as well. Before we get to all of that, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. I'm talking Niners every single day right here on the show. This is the 49ers Report. Let's do it. All right, let's begin with some Niners news directly. The 49ers made a signing. At the linebacker spot, they have elected to bring back Garrett Wallow. He was a hero in the wild card round win over the Philadelphia Eagles on the road when the 49ers were down to their 5th, 6th, and 7th linebackers. Garrett Wallow was signed late in the year off the Broncos practice squad. The 49ers picked him up, athletic backer, but he was thrust into playing time in the wild card round against the Eagles because the Niners were so banged up at the linebacker spot. And he played so well in that game, made some plays against the run, dropped back in coverage, showed some ability. I think he broke up a pass. He made his impact be felt, tackled well in space. There was one play where he made a really good tackle on Devontae Smith on a critical play in the game, showed some nice range, going from sideline to sideline. And in the divisional round against the Seahawks, I think the shine of the entire team wore off. That included Garrett Wallow, but he showed the Niners in that wild card round that he's an NFL player. Now, is he a starter? No, but he can get some snaps from time to time as a depth piece. Maybe he can contribute on special teams a little bit. So he's going to be a member of this 90-man roster looking ahead to the 2026 season. And the 49ers were impressed enough with what he did in those 2 playoff games because he hadn't played for the Niners prior to that. He pretty much walked onto the field, ended up played well, and it was an unsung hero underdog type of story that the Niners were impressed by that enough to bring him back to this team and sign him in free agency. So Garrett Wallow back to the Niners. We'll see if he can crack a spot on the 53-man roster. I've talked about this. I think going into this offseason, outside of Fred Warner, linebacker's a little bit of a concern. D. Winters has had some highs and lows in his career, led the 49ers in tackles in 2025, had that pick 6 of Phillip Rivers. You'll see some pop splash plays from time to time, but the consistency isn't necessarily there with his game. He'll make some of those positive plays, but then he'll overrun an offensive player. He can't throttle down, can't make a tackle. He'll get lost in coverage. And outside of that, Nick Martin, Niners used a 3rd-round pick on him. Didn't play at all for the most part with Oklahoma State in 2024 because of a knee injury. Suffers a concussion against Cleveland. And we didn't see him again because he could not pass concussion protocol. So outside of Fred Warner, this Niners linebacking crew isn't great. And I think it can use some upgrading. Will the Niners bring back a player like Dre Greenlaw? Dre Greenlaw got released by the Denver Broncos. He got $20+ million in guaranteed money this time last year in free agency. When healthy, he's one of the most disruptive, best linebackers in the NFL, but he hasn't been able to stay healthy. So in the draft, in free agency, room still to be made up, I should say, for San Francisco to address the linebacker spot, but they are bringing back Garrett Wallow. The Niners did lose 2 players in free agency today. Not too surprised by one of the players who left, a little bit surprised by the other who did decide to depart. Jordan Elliott is following Robert Saleh to the Tennessee Titans. He signed a deal with Tennessee today. They have spent a bunch of money on defense in free agency thus far, paying big-time dollars to Alontae Taylor, $20 million per year at corner. John Franklin Myers got a bag. I think he's making $21 million per year. Cordell Flott also signing with Tennessee. They have had a major spending spree. And that's probably one of the big reasons why Robert Saleh was interested in that job. You got a young quarterback in Cam Ward who's intriguing. You got to build your defense around Jeffrey Simmons. But I talked about this. They had a bunch of cash to spend. And they brought in a lot of talented players, like is the case in free agency. They've had to overpay a little bit. But Tennessee is an intriguing team on defense, and Jordan Elliott is a depth piece along the interior of that Titans defensive line. Good run defender, not much of a pass rusher. And I talked about this last week on the show. This clearly shows that the 49ers at defensive tackle are ushering in a new era. They let Kevin Givens walk. Let Jordan Elliott walk. They are building around Alfred Collins and CJ West. Both of those players need to improve as pass rushers, but they certainly have a lot of ability. But Jordan Elliott going to Tennessee, following Robert Saleh, and I don't look at it as much of a loss for San Francisco. It makes sense for Jordan Elliott. He's familiar with the scheme that Saleh is going to run, and the Niners can upgrade at defensive tackle. Plus, he's an older player, and they can get younger there. The other player who left the Niners, Skyy Moore. Niners traded for him prior to the year, gave up late-round draft compensation to bring in Skyy Moore because at that time, going into that Seattle game, all these wide receivers were dropping like flies. Jordan Watkins, high ankle sprain. Jacob Cowing, another hamstring injury. Jawan Jennings was banged up. Demarcus Robinson was suspended at that time. And so the 49ers traded for Skyy Moore. And on offense, he was used as a gadget guy. And he made some solid plays. He'll never live up to the expectations of being a second-round pick by Kansas City, although in Super Bowl 57, he made some marquee plays for Kansas City against Philadelphia, which helped to propel Kansas City to that Super Bowl championship. But where he made his money with the Niners last year was as a returner. And he was one of the better returners in the National Football League, both as a kick returner and as a punt returner. And his numbers were up there with some of the better returners across the NFL. And I was looking at some numbers earlier for Skyy Moore and what he was able to do with the Niners on the special teams front. Trying to find those numbers here. He averaged 27.5 yards per kick return and 11.6 yards per punt return with the 49ers. So he was a key weapon for field position, and he's signing a one-year deal with the Green Bay Packers. He was a big reason why the Niners special teams unit drastically improved from 2024 to 2025. Where do the Niners go at the return spot? You can draft a speedy wide receiver who can fill in at punt returner and kick returner. Jordan Watkins and Jacob Cowing have some experience there. If the Niners were to draft Casey Concepcion at 27 overall, he made a name for himself this past year as a dynamic returner at Texas A&M. Also remember that the 49ers drafted Junior Bergen out of Montana in the 7th round of the 2025 draft. Legitimately one of the best returners in the history of FCS football. So he didn't make the 53, still on the practice squad. He is a return specialist. It's always tricky when that player occupies a spot on the 53-man roster. Skyy Moore did, but Kyle Shanahan also had some trust in him to make some plays on offense, more so with easy crossers and bubble screens or end arounds. And that's kind of the reality of what Skyy Moore is as a player, not a great route runner, but he leaves the Niners, signs with the Green Bay Packers, and now the Niners need to address who's going to be the return man. The breaking news in the NFL that just came down a little while ago. The Maxx Crosby trade has been canceled. Friday night, the Baltimore Ravens traded a 2026 first-round pick and a 2027 first-round pick to the Las Vegas Raiders for Maxx Crosby. And what I'm about to play is my show from The Chase Down, my brand new NFL channel and show. I encourage you to subscribe to that channel. I'm going to put the sub link as the pinned comment of this edition of the 49ers Report. I launched it on Friday night talking about the initial Maxx Crosby trade, and I'm already close to 2,000 subscribers. Nothing is changing here on the 49ers Report. I just want to talk about the NFL as a whole and react to some big football stories and talk about football, college, NFL at a national level. The Chase Down is another platform for me to do that. I'm just adding more to my plate. So I'm going to play my full reaction from an NFL standpoint to the Maxx Crosby trade coming up next here on the 49ers Report. What this could mean for the Niners. Maxx Crosby initially, before the trade got canceled because Crosby didn't pass his physical, he went for 2 first-round picks. Because he failed his physical, I imagine there's not going to be another team across the NFL that is willing to trade 2 first-round picks for Maxx Crosby. So does this make him more affordable? Does this impact the asking price? And if the asking price isn't what it once was, 2 first-rounders, because of the failed physical, that knee not in a great spot coming off that meniscus surgery, could the Niners swoop back in and be interested if the asking price is right? Of course, the injury, a concern. Going to be 29 years old this upcoming season, a concern. The cap hit is more than $30 million, but you can massage it and lower it to 7. Him opposite of Nick Bosa would be really intriguing. Given the Niners' injury history as an organization, I would imagine they're not going to make this trade, but could they be back in the mix? Could the Dallas Cowboys, Jacksonville Jaguars, who were very interested in Maxx Crosby, be back in the mix? Could another team now trade for Maxx Crosby? Will Maxx Crosby, after getting traded verbally, now return to the Las Vegas Raiders after the Raiders yesterday spent more than $200 million to kick off free agency? We will see. So I'm going to play my reaction from the Chase Down next here on the 49ers Report. If you want to go over to the Chase Down and watch my Maxx Crosby reaction over there, I'd certainly appreciate that. But a lot of Niners news on this Tuesday, and this is why you subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching. What is up, everybody? Welcome into the show. My name is Chase Sr. This is the Chase Down. This is my brand new NFL show and YouTube channel. We just launched it on Friday night. Funny enough, talking about the Maxx Crosby trade from the Las Vegas Raiders to the Baltimore Ravens. But now we've got some breaking news to talk about. A quick reminder, you know the drill. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button after the first show on Friday night. I'm recording this on Tuesday evening. We're closing in on 2,000 subscribers. I really appreciate all the support so far. And if you want more NFL coverage from yours truly, don't forget to lock us in and hit that sub button. Let's get to 2K with this video. So this came out of nowhere. And in NFL free agency, there's always a lot of craziness. It can get really hectic. Yesterday, we saw the likes of Tyler Linderbaum reset the center market at a historic rate. The highest paid center in the NFL was Creed Humphrey at $18 million. The Las Vegas Raiders paid Tyler Linderbaum $27 million per year on a 3-year, $80 million contract. And so often in free agency, it is bad teams who have a lot of needs on their roster, overpaying for some of these players in order to get some juice going, to try to get back on track. And that's part of the realistic nature of what free agency is. Overpaying some of these good players, great money, while also factoring in some projections of what those players can be over the course of that contract. But especially of late with business booming across the NFL, the increasing salary cap, which makes some of these deals a little bit more easier to stomach over time, because over the last several years, we have seen constantly all of these deals become record-setting contracts and set the market for that specific position, but then soon thereafter, they get overtaken. So in free agency, you see some of these wild storylines and some of these insane contracts, but this legitimately is one of the craziest stories in the history of the National Football League. On Friday night, the Las Vegas Raiders and the Baltimore Ravens agreed to a blockbuster trade, one of the biggest trades that you will see in the NFL. Shoot, in professional sports. Maxx Crosby is a marketable player who is very well known. He's a great player. He's working toward being a Hall of Famer. He was the face of that Las Vegas Raiders organization and franchise. And it was very hard for the Raiders to get to a point to move off of him. Maxx Crosby did a 15-minute long video saying his goodbyes to Raider Nation. And it was authentic. It was pure. It was straight from the heart. It makes you root for him and really like him. And it's not like he was reading off a piece of paper. It wasn't some statement from an agent. Maxx Crosby did what Maxx Crosby does, kept it a buck and kept it real. And the receiving team, the Baltimore Ravens, they're an organization that over time, under the direction and ownership of Steve Bisciotti, hasn't made a lot of aggressive moves like this. They've played it somewhat conservative. They've invested into their team. They've handed out some big contracts, but especially over the last few years, and really what we've become to know the Ravens as is a team that drafts and develops, and they don't make splashy trades. They don't make monster moves in free agency. So it was a little bit uncharacteristic for Baltimore to make this type of move where they gave up 2 first-round picks for Maxx Crosby. And it's not like their first-round pick in 2026 was at 31 overall, like what the New England Patriots, for instance, could have offered. It was the 14th overall pick. So the Las Vegas Raiders were in a position where they had the first pick and the 14th opportunity to take Fernando Mendoza at number 1, another really good player at 14. And then next year, they had their own first and a Ravens first-round pick. That's 4 first-round picks the next 2 seasons. You hit on those picks. The Raiders, has some of the most draft capital that any team has ever had, featuring premium draft selections. And if you hit on some of those selections, the Raiders could be back. And this is an organization that has not won a playoff game since 2003. So this trade wiped off the table. And when I saw this news get broken, my first thought was, did Maxx Crosby fail his physical? Maxx Crosby got a meniscus surgery this offseason. He's a big physical defensive end, a lot of weight on that knee. That's a pretty severe injury. We've seen a lot of basketball players have to deal with meniscus injuries before, and obviously they're running, jumping, and have to be a lot springier than some football players. But the point here being, it's not like it was a sprained ankle, right? It's not like it was a wrist surgery. It was a meniscus surgery on a knee for a soon-to-be 29-year-old pass rusher, and that's exactly why this trade has failed, and that's exactly why the Baltimore Ravens have backed out. Maxx Crosby today failed his physical, and that's why this deal is off. And the Las Vegas Raiders just put out a statement, keeping it short and simple, and they're putting it on Baltimore. Quote, "The Baltimore Ravens have backed out of our trade agreement for Maxx Crosby. We will have no further comment at this time." And that statement is just coming in from the Raiders as we're reacting to this news in real time. And I'll pop that statement up on your screen right now so everybody can look at it. The Baltimore Ravens have backed out of our trade agreement for Maxx Crosby. We will have no further comment at this time. So what does this mean moving forward, right? The Raiders are back to square one. And if Maxx Crosby failed his physical with Baltimore, I don't think it's doctors just being stringent here. It's doctors doing their job. Clearly, there wasn't something right with that knee. Is the knee fucked? Will Maxx Crosby now play for the Raiders in 2026 in improbable fashion? And if the Raiders want to trade Crosby away, the trade package is not going to be what they initially received, 2 first-round picks. I imagine there will be suitors and other teams will remain interested in Crosby. Since 2019, he's been a premier pass rusher. He has been an elite edge setter and run defender. But this has major ramifications, and there is just no way, no how, after Crosby failed a physical, that a team is going to fork over 2 first-round picks. Maybe it's a late one, in addition to like a 2 or a 3. But if you're a team that was in the market for Maxx Crosby, do you feel comfortable giving up 2 first-rounders? What would happen is that a team brings in Crosby, they do a physical, they see where the knee is, and the thing with medical stuff these days, it's like, let's get another doctor's opinion. Let's consult in another doctor. The key word there, opinion. Other doctors could have another opinion here on where that knee is, but there are some major, major red flags here now. And for Baltimore, this is a move that made so much sense. Maxx Crosby was a Raider to his core, emptying the tank on every snap in every game, had the utmost respect from everybody across the NFL because of the way that he approaches the game. How he's a pass rush technician, the effort that he gives, the football IQ that he has. He was putting up great production on awful teams. And since coming into the NFL in 2019, he had appeared in 1 playoff game. So can you imagine what Maxx Crosby can do on a better coached team when he has more talent around him if he's healthy? I was thinking about Maxx Crosby as a potential defensive player of the year candidate because that Baltimore defense is going to be well coached by Jesse Minter. There's some good players along that defensive line at that second and third level. They're good at corner. You've got Kyle Hamilton at safety. And there's the motivation factor, right? And the person that Maxx Crosby is, I talked about it with that statement saying goodbye to Raider Nation. Class act, got his act together, went to rehab after his rookie season. He's gotten on the high road and the good road and the positive road, and he's turned into a great father, a great husband, a great teammate, a great friend. And when you talk to people across the NFL, when I'm at the Super Bowl or at the NFL Combine, everybody raves about Maxx Crosby. But this is a business. And for an organization in the Ravens that did something uncharacteristic, they needed to make sure this knee was in a good spot. Clearly, according to their doctors, it wasn't, and the Ravens back out of it. And I'm fascinated to see where the Las Vegas Raiders go now, what they do, and what type of value they can get back, and what the trade market is for Crosby. I'm going to pull up my Twitter here and try to look at any recent tweets to pass along that info because literally I pressed record right after this news broke. There were other teams interested in Crosby. Diana Rossini had said the Jags tried to put together a trade package for Crosby. The Cowboys were willing to offer a first and a second for Crosby. The Chicago Bears were very interested. Ian Rappaport now tweeting, would the Cowboys be back in? With what they've done in free agency, it may not be possible, but time will tell. From our breaking news coverage, the Ravens made a decision on Crosby's medical that they are not ready to assume the risk of Crosby's knee, nullifying the trade. So the 2026 and 2027 first-round picks, of course, go back to Baltimore. Maxx Crosby, on his Instagram story, had posted a photo of M&T Bank Stadium. So he was in town today in Baltimore to take his physical. And that was the first thing, obviously, that he was in Baltimore to do. A wild, wild situation unfolding. You also have to wonder what this does for some of the free agents on the open market, like Trey Hendrickson. And also keep in mind the ripple effect this could cause. This is the legal tampering period. These contracts have been verbally agreed to. They have not been signed officially with pen to paper. We saw this with Frank Gore. We've seen this from time to time. Frank Gore verbally agreed to an Eagles contract to play under Chip Kelly, backed out of that deal, ended up signing with the Indianapolis Colts. So I also wonder if some players could back out of their contracts. This is not the first time a failed physical has scuttled a deal on the Ravens end. It happened in 2018 when the Ravens agreed to terms with free agent wide receiver Ryan Grant. didn't go through with signing him because of an ankle issue. It happened again with Michael Brockers in 2020. So the Ravens have a little bit of a history here. And trades, of course, are contingent upon a physical. Holy shit, man. What does this do for the Raiders' plans? I love the position that they were in to try to kickstart this rebuild, getting some premium draft picks, because that's how you become successful again. Building through the draft with cost-controlled assets, and now that changes a little bit, and now what teams are going to be back in the mix? My name is Chase Sr. This is the Chase Down. If you made it until the end of the video, give me a real one down below. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and thank you so much for watching. I'll be back tomorrow with NFL free agency winners and losers, but had to give you this breaking news.